Are you in search of a good book? How about a biography? Molly Seneschal is here from the Brown County Library with 5 biographies, true stories, which sometimes makes them an even greater story because some of these read like fiction.
They do.
And then you think to yourself, this really happened.
Yes. Actually, most of these were like that for me. So.
And that's why you picked them for us. Okay. Well, let's start with Finding Oz.
Sure. Oh, this is my favorite,
this
I
one
think,
right
out
here?
of all of them. Yes. So this is the story of L. Frank Baum, who wrote The Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
And all of its sequels. And he had a lot of failed careers before he became a novelist. He was a newspaper publisher. He bred chickens. He was a traveling salesman who sold fine china door to door. And fortunately for all of us, none of those worked out for him.
So he had to write.
So he had to write instead. And the idea came to him almost literally, and pardon the pun, in a flash one day. The story of the tornado and a girl in the empty prairie, and he had actually lived in Kansas for a while. The most fascinating part of the book to me, though, was hearing about the people and places who inspired his characters. The Wicked Witch was inspired by his mother-in-law, who was a suffragist and very adamant in her work, and she was a real tough cookie. So it was based largely on her. The Yellow Brick Road actually existed. It was a place in New York near where he grew up, and the Emerald City was inspired by the Chicago World's Fair.
How cool. Yes. So you're going to learn behind the scenes too.
Yes.
And the inspiration for The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
The next one you picked, A Young Woman in the Sea.
Yes, and this is the story of Gertrude Ederle, who she was the first woman and the 6th person to swim the English Channel in 1926. I remember reading a story about her in Highlights magazine when I was about 8. So her story really stuck with me. And decades before, about 20 years before she swam the English Channel, there was a horrible boat accident. There were about 1,000 people on a ship that was heading to the seaside for an annual family picnic, and the boat caught fire, and the captain told everyone to jump off so they could swim to shore. Well, a lot of the folks on board were women and children, and they hadn't been taught how to swim, so they drowned. And it really, I don't know, the author described it as tossing a stone that made the ripples that eventually, made this woman swim.
Wow. And with Diana Naya just swimming from Cuba to Florida, people are into that right now, and they're thinking about it. So that's a great pick. This is your 3rd one, In My Hands.
Yes, and then you need to read this with a box of tissues.
Okay.
Because you're going to cry. I can guarantee it. This is the story of Irene Goot, who was a nursing student in Warsaw when it was attacked during World War II, and she was captured and made to work as a waitress in the Nazi officers' dining hall. And she looked German, she spoke German, and they thought, oh, she's a girl, she's harmless. So she used that to her advantage. She was the most resourceful person I've ever heard about, and she was able to listen to information about the prison camps being emptied and other information. And so she used it to keep some of her Jewish friends in relative safety. And I say relative because it's war, and no one's ever really safe in a war, but you wouldn't believe what she went through. She had her own share of horrors, and she refused to let them stop her. She just plowed right ahead and said, I'm going to help as many people as I can. And it's horrific, but it's also very inspiring because well, I can't tell you, I don't want to spoil any plot,
don't spoil the ending.
She worked to help dozens of people, and she was just one girl who everyone thought was incapable of anything.
In My Hands, it moved Molly, so hopefully it will you too. She picked 2 other biographies. They're right there in front. The prize winner of Defiance in Ohio. But wait, there's more, 2 other reads for people to check out. And you can find them all at the Brown County Library, and we put this list on our website, fox11online.com, and click on Good Day Wisconsin. Thanks, Molly.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Have you thought about a Halloween costume yet?